Viewer, between you, me, and everyone else on YouTube, I suffer from a very rare affliction. About as rare as that one that was prohibiting suburban white women from wearing masks. This affliction has been affectionately called morbid curiosity-itis. You see, because of this ailment, I can never find myself hating something just because, ew, it's infamous, or ew, it exists. I have to look into exactly what it is, why it's famous, why it dares to exist. And through that process, I can say with almost certainty that I hate something with every fiber of my being. If you were to look through my channel, you can most certainly see that I've done this process for zoophilia. In between every turn of bad, horrible, and more reasons I should probably get that therapy I've been neglecting, I can say without a shadow of a doubt that zoophiles are a degenerative plague. I have made a zoophile sock puppet on Twitter just to see if I was missing out on something, and just so happens I checked it while writing the script. The feed was all flimsy rubbish about how dogs have feelings too, so it's okay to screw them, along with bestiality, both drawn and real, and what can only be described as a zoophile manifesto. A document that might drive that theoretical therapist mentioned earlier to one of his theoretical own. But not surprisingly, this video isn't on my aim to understand zoophiles because again, I have tried. And I understand that the world would be better if they all just took the Mr. Hands way out of it. No. This one is on me trying to understand another branch of degeneracy that some furry fandom members indulge in. Cub art. I've made videos talking about people who created and take in cub art, yes, but I never really gave why I have such a gripe with it. Now, there's nothing inherently wrong with cub art, just like there's no harm in watching little Timmy while he's at school in an unmarked van parked across the street. But like that example, the issue comes with intent, as well as when things get taken too far. It's all fun and games until Timmy wakes up chained up in a sex dungeon. Anyways, we're getting a bit ahead of ourselves. Firstly, let's get a bit of context here. For those not aware, cub as it pertains to the furry fandom is almost identical to its regular meaning. Essentially, a cub is just a young animal character anthropomorphized. As I said, there's nothing inherently wrong with cub characters. Children being furries isn't the end of the world. It's just a warning sign of the rapture. My problem with cub lies in its dark counterpart, cub porn, which we'll be referring to as cub P so I don't have to keep saying it over and over. Now, cub P, or CP, strange coincidence right there, it's pretty much what you would assume it to be. Not safe for work content containing an anthro character who's not yet of age being depicted sexually. That description alone already shows off the similarities between CP and CP. There have actually been laws enacted due to these similarities. Obviously not in some places, mind you, but places like Australia and the UK have enacted laws prohibiting any depiction of child pee, real or otherwise. But laws aside, due to how infrequent they are from area to area, looking at you Philippines and Nigeria, the connection of cub to baby furs, as well as fictional characters under the age of consent, is a very reasonable reason for someone to be against the material. However, simply giving the definition and what it's related to doesn't really give why the underage sexual content just doesn't sit right with me. So let's kick things off with one of the reasons I'm against sexual cub art. When it comes to cub as well as lolicon, I'd like to believe that the first thought to pop into someone's head is, oh, that's a child, and for that thought to be immediately followed by, oh god, why is there an adult in that child's nethers? However, there are members of mankind who have thought both thoughts, and still contain the willpower to take their micro sausage out of their pants and paint the computer screen in a corroded white. Regardless of the childlike proportions and the character resembling that of a grade schooler, there's still some out there looking to find that material for their hourly beating of the one-eyed snake. A reason that's used by lolicon fappers that can't really be applied to most cub is that the character is not a child, instead being a 9,000-year-old eldritch god who just decided to use the body of a young girl to depict their worldly figure. I never really was a fan of that trope, let alone why that character was one people chose to beat their meat to. Was the hot or busty adult figure not viable enough for you? That same question can be asked for furries as well. You have all these candidates, yet this is where you went? Where did you go wrong? It was probably when you got aroused by a drawing of cub pee, but that brings up another excuse that most cub condoners use. There was always this excuse that rubbed me the wrong way, and it always came when you were expressing your dislike for cub. You might have actually run into this yourself, almost definitely if you've used Twitter before. Say you come across cub content and you express your displeasure with it. Most likely you'll be met with,
"Calm down, it's just a drawing."
Well, alright, wise ass. A drawing of what?
It's a drawing of a griffin cub being bound and gagged in a toy horse, while an off-screen adult woman coaxes another canine cub to screw the toy horse. But it's all fiction, so I don't know why you're getting so worked up about it. What is this exactly?
It's the number for my theoretical therapist. You might need him a lot more than I do. Also, did I say drawing? Because I meant video. 7 minutes of video. Voice acted and all. In a style that surprisingly complements how shitty the situation is by being just as shit. Excremental execution aside, what I just described to you was a video made possible by an artist by the name of Bloodhawk, otherwise known as BH Animations. He's mostly well known for, well, making sexual cub animations. I came across his content years ago, back when I was a degenerate, and my reaction to his work back then was, surprisingly enough, ew, it exists. I'd forgotten about it for about 3 years or so before I got a tweet from a friend. Around the start of March 2021, Bloodhawk decided to make a Twitter account. He managed to post a single preview of his animation before deleting his Twitter. Now he seems to be fully based in the cub porn crack den that is Ink Bunny, where his fellow cub condoners discussed his attempt at moving over to the Bird app. If you were to start a post about Twitter with "the orcs are trying to bash down the gate," what exactly is the first impression supposed to be? If your answer was that wanting cub removed is policing free speech, chances are you've already downvoted the video and didn't even make it this far. Wait, did I just say downvote? It's sad to see such drama queens get so much momentum on policing free speech. It saddens me so much there are so many people thinking they're wearing the superhero cape for media attention when they're really pushing this content into hiding, which can lead into very shady places. While yes, I do think Ink Bunny is very shady when it comes to condoning cub, I would rather keep everything contained there. At least then, the people who have accounts for it can be placed on my list of people I'm not very fond of. Then I can say I'm not very fond of myself. Self-deprecation quota. But speaking of people I'm not very fond of, we have a few comments on the post of a man comparing people getting angry about his cub violation fantasy work to that of American prohibition, as if I didn't have more reason to dislike him. Now he's putting cub pee and beer in the same boat. Now I don't want to make assumptions, but anyway, let's get to the comments. You have people saying that Twitter nowadays is a heckin' place of white knights, who are often those who have most number of things to hide in private, and while yes, that is true in most cases, what does that have to do with being against cub? Especially the depraved shit this guy's putting out. Although, a comment type I saw a lot while scrolling through the dribble of asses with literal asses as their profile pictures was that they aren't real children. Stuff like basically BH being accusing of doing child pee animations. You know, the usual delusions. But where I lost it was the same guy saying that drawings of virtual children that aren't even human is CP, but a movie where real children are sexualized like crazy is progressive. Bonkers. I'm pretty sure I don't have to say this as they've already screwed themselves over, but Cuties was never found progressive. At least not by the same people who are against cub. A crap ton of people were up in arms about this movie, possibly on a larger scale compared to that of the people against cub. And as you said yourself, drawings of virtual children are child sexual exploitation material. But supposedly it's not real humans, so it's fine. This is another point people have been bringing up in the comment section, as well as others who woke up and chose to be objectively wrong for the day. Arguably, the only point that holds some form of weight when defending cub material is that it isn't real, while essentially just being another way of saying it's just a drawing. The way this is phrased seems to open up a completely different position that can be refuted with a somewhat similar argument. Something being a fiction doesn't exactly hold the almighty power over opinion as most think it would. You could draw yourself mutilating and molesting a dog, and the fact of it being fiction doesn't make it any better.
Oh, look at my art gallery of minors being bound, gagged, and molested by fully grown adults. But of course, it's just fiction. You know I would never do or condone such a thing.
Although, going by their logic, they aren't human, so what I meant to say was... yeah, I'm not repeating any of that. The main issue I have with Cub is that, regardless of it being fictional content, its resemblance to actual CP is almost 1 for 1. Replacing the child with some griffin cub doesn't exactly cut it. It's still a minor and an adult fornicating, or statutory R as most will call it. So, at least in my eyes, I can't find much reason to allow it to be legal, if not heavily moderated to hell. And yes, I know cub pee is technically an artistic expression, before any cub condoners run into the comments raving about how I'm shitting on the First Amendment. But even with that double-edged amendment, I'll be using it to say that after all the time I spent subjecting myself to this god-awful material, it's my opinion that all devices containing cub pee should be thrown into the nearest volcano. Or, you know, give it to one of those Daddy-O5 parents. They always seem to have a knack for exploiting children.
Oh my god! I didn't say like that! I said give her a little tap!
Stay safe out there, viewer.